Most pallet furniture falls apart within a few months, and almost nobody talks about why. It's not bad luck. It's not cheap wood. It's 5 specific mistakes that every generic pallet tutorial online repeats, over and over, because nobody making those videos has actually built enough of these projects to know better. If your last pallet project ended up wobbly, cracked, or quietly shoved into a corner of the garage, it probably wasn't your fault. You just never got the 5 pieces of information that actually matter. These aren't the tips you've already heard, like sand the wood or wear gloves. These are the details that separate furniture that survives years of real use from furniture that looks fine in a photo and falls apart within a season, details pulled from cross-referencing thousands of tested builds in one plan library, the same one linked in the description and pinned comment below, rather than guessing based on 1 or 2 projects. Hack number 1. Check the stamp before the wood ever touches a saw. Every shipping pallet carries a stamp under an international standard, and it tells you something most people never bother to look for. HT means heat-treated, safe for any project, indoor or outdoor. MB means methyl bromide, a chemical fumigant that has no business anywhere near furniture people will sit on, sleep on, or eat off of. No stamp at all usually means untreated softwood, generally fine for outdoor builds but worth avoiding for anything indoors. This alone eliminates a huge share of the safety complaints that show up in pallet furniture comment sections, people building with the wrong pallet and wondering later why it smells strange in a warm room. Hack number 2, and this is the one almost every beginner gets wrong: stop throwing away the stringers. A pallet isn't just made of deck boards. Underneath, running the length of the pallet, are 3 thick support blocks called stringers, usually a rough, boxy shape that looks useless at first glance. Most people toss them straight into the scrap pile and only use the flat deck boards. That's backwards. Stringers are the densest, strongest wood on the entire pallet, because they're built to bear the actual weight of a loaded pallet in a warehouse. They make far better table legs, bench supports, and load-bearing joints than thinner deck boards ever will. The plan I mentioned earlier specifically calls out which pieces of a pallet to save for structural work and which to save for visible surfaces, which is exactly the kind of detail that turns looks nice furniture into lasts for years furniture. Hack number 3 solves a problem that ruins a lot of finished pieces before they're even done: old nail holes and gouges that stick out no matter how well you sand around them. Store-bought wood filler almost never matches reclaimed wood's actual color once it dries and the surrounding wood ages further, and it shows up as obvious light patches under stain. The fix is simple and nearly invisible: mix fine sawdust from the exact same board you're patching with a small amount of wood glue, until it forms a thick paste, and press it into the hole before it dries. Because the sawdust comes from the identical piece of wood, it takes stain at almost the same rate as the surrounding surface, instead of standing out as a mismatched blotch. It's a 5-minute fix that most tutorials skip entirely, and it's the difference between furniture that looks intentionally rustic and furniture that just looks patched up. Hack number 4 is less about a tool and more about how you look at the wood before you even start cutting. Every pallet has boards in different conditions, some clean and tight-grained, some scratched, water-stained, or slightly split. Most beginners cut pieces in whatever order they pull them apart, which means the ugliest boards randomly end up on the front of a finished piece just as often as the nicest ones. Builders who actually plan ahead sort every board first, then deliberately assign the roughest, most damaged pieces to the back panel, the underside, or anywhere that won't face the room, and save the cleanest, tightest-grained boards for the front and top surfaces people actually see and touch. It takes maybe 10 extra minutes of sorting before any cutting starts, and it's the single biggest reason 2 people can build the exact same plan with the exact same pile of wood, and one piece looks noticeably more finished than the other. Hack number 5 is the one that causes the most quiet frustration, because it doesn't show up until weeks after a project is done. Reclaimed wood keeps moving after it's cut and joined, expanding and contracting slightly as it adjusts to the humidity in your home or garage, especially if it sat outside in a pallet stack for months before you got to it. Load a freshly built piece with full weight immediately, and joints that felt solid on day 1 can develop a slight wobble within a few weeks, simply from the wood settling into its new shape. The fix costs nothing but patience. Let a finished piece sit fully assembled, unloaded, for at least 24 to 48 hours before using it hard. That short curing window lets any final movement happen before the joints are under real stress, and it's a step the plan library builds directly into its project timelines, instead of rushing straight from last screw to sit on it immediately, the way most quick tutorials do. None of these 5 hacks are secret in the sense that nobody could ever find them. They're just scattered, buried in forum threads, old woodworking forums, and offhand comments from people who've built dozens of these projects and never bothered writing it all down in one place. That's really the actual problem with most free pallet tutorials online. They cover the same 3 basic tips because that's what fits in a short video, while the details that actually determine whether a project survives past month 2 get left out entirely. Here's what these 5 hacks actually add up to, in practical terms. The stamp check prevents a build you'd have to throw away entirely for safety reasons. Saving the stringer's turns would most people discard into your strongest structural pieces, often removing the need to buy any additional lumber for legs or supports. The sawdust filler saves a finished piece from looking amateurish over a handful of nail holes. Sorting boards before cutting is the difference between furniture that looks intentional and furniture that looks accidental. And the curing window is the one habit that prevents the slow, quiet wobble that makes people quietly give up on a piece they were originally proud of. Individually, each hack saves maybe an hour of frustration or a few dollars in wasted material. Stacked together across an entire project, they're usually the actual gap between a piece that gets used daily for years and one that gets replaced within a season, which, coincidentally, is the same gap between spending $40 once and spending $40 3 separate times. Worth noting, too, not every hack carries equal weight depending on where a piece ends up living. Indoors, the sawdust filler and board sorting hacks matter most, since those are the details people actually see up close every day. Outdoors, the stamp check and the curing window matter more, since safety and structural movement under weather exposure are what actually determine whether a piece survives its first real storm season, not how well the grain lines up. All 5 of these details, plus the exact measurements for wherever they apply, are already built into the plans in the library linked in the description and pinned comment below. Over 16,000 tested projects where this kind of trial and error has already been done for you. You don't have to spend a year building enough furniture to discover these lessons the hard way. Somebody else already did, and wrote it down. If your last pallet project ended up wobbly, mismatched, or quietly forgotten in a corner of the garage, it probably wasn't a skill problem. It was a missing information problem, and now you have 5 fewer things standing between you and a piece of furniture that actually lasts.